Hi everyone, in today's video I'm sitting up close and personal and I thought I would share with you my 10 money habits. These are the money habits that I live by. In fact, I've been living by them for about 20 years now. I'm now in my 40s, and ever since I was in my early 20s after graduating college, starting to work in corporate America, I have been following these practices. So I put up a poll recently on my community page and I asked which video would you like to see next, and this video topic got a lot of votes. So here we are. And so for those of you who are newer to my channel and you're wondering about this whole setup, I never show my face. I'm very guarded about my privacy. I cherish my privacy. So hopefully this isn't going to be weird. Hopefully it just feels like a cozy little chat up close. And I don't have a lot of eye candy, so consider this almost like a podcast style where I'll just be talking. I do have this little critter out here. I thought it would be fun to put her on display. So this was a gift from my sister-in-law this past weekend. Apparently she's really into Labubu dolls. I think these are so popular nowadays. I've seen a lot of people hang these off of their handbags, and she gifted this one to me. So this one has a squinty closed little eyes, and apparently the artist of the Labubu dolls meant to create these little monsters that look really happy so that they can spread happiness in the world. And so I thought that was a fun concept. Let me know if you guys are into Labubu dolls as well. And for those of you who've been watching my other videos related to fashion and luxury and handbag reviews, you might be wondering, why are you talking about finance now? Well, I've always sprinkled in some finance videos here and there because I am super passionate about teaching financial literacy and empowering others to make wise money decisions. So when I first started this channel 5.5 years ago, I was torn between creating a channel that was focused on fashion and handbags and luxury or personal finance. And I decided to focus more on the fashion luxury because it's lighthearted, it's frivolous, it's fun, it's creative, it's a nice outlet for me, and plus I can show more, and I knew that I never wanted to show my face on this channel. So with personal finance, I only do it from time to time, and I just want to say thank you to those of you who've shown interest in those videos. And even though these videos don't get many views compared to my other videos, I will say that if this video today helps even one of you out there, then I think it's totally worth my time. Habit number 1, live below your means. This is something that was taught to me by my parents at an early age, and you can't have it all. I think in society today, with social media and influencers and celebrities and marketing and the consumerism, there's this screwed up notion that you should be able to have everything, that you should be able to have everything your neighbor has. There's like this competitiveness. There's the keeping up with the Joneses. And the reality is you can't have it all. And you really need to sit down and determine what is most important to you and then go after that. If you are in debt, make it a top priority to get out of debt. If you're not in debt, stay out of debt. My husband and I, we've been completely debt-free for over 15 years now, but if I think about my early years when I was in my 20s, after graduating college, I had both school loan debt and credit card debt. It's just that I so badly wanted to pay that off as quickly as possible. I made that a top priority. That meant sacrificing other things. That meant saying no to a lot of things. And when you do pay off your debt, there is such a freedom that settles in. You have now financial flexibility. You now have the luxury of not having to owe someone anything. So live below your means, and that means that if you're making $100,000 a year, live below your means. If you're making $500,000 a year, live below your means. If you're making $42,000 a year, live below your means. Make choices that fit within what you can handle so that you have buffer to live your life. Number 2, treat savings like a bill. When the electricity bill comes, or your Netflix bill comes, or your mortgage bill comes, you don't just decide, maybe I won't pay it this month. Same thing with savings. Treat it like a bill. It is a must. You are saving for yourself. You are saving for your future. What's more important than that? So if that means that you have to cancel some things out of your life, if you have to cancel subscriptions, if you have to cut out some non-essentials like entertainment in order to make space to treat savings like your bill, where you are consistently making sure that you pay yourself, that you pay into your savings every single month, then there really is no wiggle room, right? It's not a negotiable. Next, a lot of financial professionals talk about this 50-30-20 rule. It's where you spend roughly 50% of your take-home pay on needs like shelter, food, etc. And then 30% on wants like non-essentials, entertainment, hanging out, traveling, and then 20% on savings. And I have always flipped that. Ever since I started making money, I've always said my standard will be 50% needs, at least 30% savings, and then 20% or less wants. And I started doing that even when I was making a measly entry-level salary. And so it's become a habit. Because if all the financial professionals are saying that 50, 30, 20 means only 20% goes into your savings, then you are basically just the average Joe, right? If you want to have more than the average, if you want to build wealth faster, then you've got to go above and beyond the rule of thumb. Now, don't be too hard on yourself. Depending on circumstances and expenses going out, this may fluctuate, but it's nice to have a guideline. There were years when I was fortunate enough to be able to put over 40% into savings. I remember some years it was close to 45%. Living in Manhattan, by the way, one of the most expensive cities in the world. And then there were years, as soon as our kids were born, expenses skyrocketed, and then our savings dropped considerably. And so it's fluctuated. But if you have a target, and your target is better than the average rule of thumb, then more likely than not, you'll wind up being in a pretty good position down the road. And then number 4 is so important, and I hope this will come through to those of you who are really eager about saving. When it comes to determining how much to save, always make it a percentage. You want to save a percentage of your income. So for example, instead of saying, I will save $100 every month or $1,000 every month, whatever the amount is, say to yourself, this is how much I make, and I'm aiming for X percentage. And that equates to $2,112 a month. It could be a weird number, or that equates to $185 a month, okay, by percentage. Then that's what you put away every month. And the cool thing is, as your income grows, instead of subjecting yourself to lifestyle inflation where you're making more money, but there's more money going out and you can't even keep track of it, and you're wondering, why am I making twice as much money as I was when I was younger and I'm still not saving that much? Well, because you did it by dollar amount. So if you save $100 a month today and you're still saving $100 a month in 5 years, you've not kept up. You've not kept up with inflation. You've not kept up with your own earning potential. What that means is you've stayed stagnant. So if you do it by percentage, let's say you decide to save 10% of your income because you're just starting off and that's what you can manage. Fine. But then when you start making more money, that 10% calculated against a larger income is going to naturally be more. 10% of $10,000 is very different from 10% of $100,000, right? So always stick to a percentage. Do the math to see what percentage of my income is this that I'm saving. And if it's too low, get a bit more aggressive. Number 5, make it easy on yourself by automating everything. I've talked about this in the past as well. I automate everything. It's on autopilot. I automate my savings. Every month there's a set number that goes out from one bank account to another, and I don't see it, I don't touch it, I don't ever think about it, it just goes. The same with my investments. I automate all of my investments on a monthly basis, so it just goes in dollar cost averaging, same amount every time. And I also automate my bills. All of my bills are set to auto pay, so again, I don't have to sit there and think about it. I also automate my donations. So when it comes to donating to different charitable organizations, it's set every month, so it goes to those organizations every single month on the same date of each month, same dollar amount. Who has the time to sit there and think about money and money going in and out all day, every day? It's way too much time and effort. And number 2, when you don't automate, there's friction. You start to think, oh, do I want to donate this month? Oh, do I want to save this month? I kind of want to go travel. I kind of want to spend it over here. Oh, the market's down. Should I be investing? Oh, that's kind of scary. Maybe I shouldn't buy the stocks this month. It creates way too much friction and anxiety and unnecessary decision making when if you have a long-term horizon and you're looking at the big picture, automating the day-to-day is so helpful and so efficient, and it relieves you of thinking about all of that, and it relieves you also of the temptation of using that money. All right, number 6, invest in the most boring way possible. This is what I've been doing for a while. When I was younger, I did some day trading. I made some mistakes. I also made some money, but I made a lot of mistakes. So over the last maybe 15 years or so, I've really just been taking a very steady, consistent, but boring, unsensational approach to investing. And that means dollar cost averaging every month at a set time. It's automated. It goes into certain funds. It's automatically diversified because most of my investments in the stock market are in index funds that have a proven history for many, many years. And I try not to look or get excited when there's news about the stock market. There's news about the stock market every day, actually. And I don't try to time the market anymore. I made that mistake when I was much younger. It is the time in the market, how long you have money in the market, that makes a bigger difference in the long run versus trying to time the market. And even the institutional investors who are studying this for years and are supposed to be experts, they oftentimes cannot beat index funds. So if there's someone dedicating their entire life and their entire career and education to try to beat the stock market and they're not able to do it successfully 9 times out of 10 times, what makes you think that you can do that from your home computer? And so I had to learn that as well the hard way when I was younger. And now I'm just on autopilot and it's boring. There's not much to talk about, but I believe in the power of compound interest. My money is growing, and so that's that. Do not get sucked into get rich quick schemes. Do not get excited when a stock is supposed to be like a hot pick. Do not panic either when the stock market dips. That's inevitable. It is supposed to do that. It will go up and down. Just look at the long-term horizon. That will make you feel better. All right, number 7, spend more of your money on personal growth and experiences versus material consumption. And I know it might feel ironic because I have so many videos on this channel about fashion and luxury and shopping, but I've always said that's not really indicative of who I am as a whole person, because most of our money goes towards education, enrichment, travel. We love to travel as a family, and those are the things that shape us. Those are the things that truly bring joy and happiness and memories into our lives, makes us feel so grateful, bonding moments, and those are the experiences that actually change my life. No handbag, no pair of shoes, no nice jacket has ever impacted me as a person, has never made a substantial impact on my life, has not changed my experience of day-to-day living. These are just fun, frivolous items, and it's okay to enjoy them. But the things that last are the experiences. There are tons of research and studies on this. What we experience is much more powerful than what we buy. Okay, habit number 8, trust in the power of compound interest. Because I remember sitting across one of my old friends years ago over lunch, and I said, we should be millionaires. And she looked at me and she was like, you're joking, right? And she gave me such a condescending look. And I didn't mean that I was going to go out and make $1 million. I meant that if we are steady and disciplined and we put away enough money every month for several years, compound interest will take care of the growth. And I couldn't even explain that to her because she kind of just laughed me off. And that was over 10 years ago. It's really hard to believe that if you put away just this much every month for a few years, that it's going to grow and balloon into something so big. But that's how compound interest works. So when you feel anxious, when you feel a little bit discouraged about saving, do the math. Go online, search compound interest calculator, put in your starting amount, what you already have in the bank, and then enter the additional amount that you're saving each year and put the number of years. So if you want to see what it looks like in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, etc. If you've got a longer time horizon, great, 40 years, and see on average what it comes out to with like a 7% interest rate or 8% interest rate, because that is historically what the S&P 500 or index funds has produced. Trust in the math. Look at the numbers, do the calculations. Of course, it may be off by little, but more likely than not, I think that if you are steady and consistent, you'll wind up having more than you expected. There's a lot of studies out there showing that people who finally reach retirement age wind up they have more than they expected, more than they need. I know there are a lot of headlines about how, so many Americans don't even have $500 to their name, and they can't even pay for an emergency. If they got a flat tire, they would be broke and homeless and on the streets. I know that there are people in those dire situations, but don't get sucked into the panic news. Think about all the other people out there who are working class, teachers, nurses, technicians, who retire with millions because they take a steady approach over a long period of time. Number 9, this is so important. Never buy something just because ... So just because it's on sale, just because it's on trend, just because it's limited edition, just because it's the last one left. Whenever there's a just because ... you're likely spending your hard-earned money on something you actually don't need and you probably don't even want. Maybe after 6 weeks or so, you'll look at the thing and go, Why did I even buy this? Unless you actually want or need the thing and you've been looking for it, it doesn't matter if it's 90% off on sale. You are robbing yourself of your own money when you buy something that you don't need or want. And habit number 10 is so important and has been really important for me, and that is to remind ourselves that money is great. It affords us freedom and comfort and luxuries and flexibility and choices. Freedom of choices is huge when you have money. But always remember that money in and of itself has no value unless you use it to either better your life, better the lives of others around you, use it to enhance your life or enhance your family's life or extended family and friends or strangers you want to help out. Money is not meant to be hoarded. I remember seeing a funny quote. It said, "Money is like manure. The more you pile it up, the more it stinks." And I think the whole idea is don't hoard, don't become this stingy miser, because that's not the point. I mean, money can be a powerful idol, right? There are so many warnings in the Bible about money specifically because we can wind up worshiping money. It becomes almost like a god to us, and that is so dangerous and so unhealthy. Actually, I believe that if you're not generous when you have little money, you probably won't be generous when you have a lot of money. So those are my personal money principles and habits. If any one of those resonated with you, do let me know in the comments down below. And if you have any others that you want to add below in the comment section, that would be great. Not everything that I do is going to work for you and vice versa, but sometimes just hearing each other's perspectives and sharing can be really enlightening. All right, that's it from me today. I will say bye-bye and close out with this little cutie Labubu critter. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.